How's it going, guys? It's Jerry from Aesthetic Auto Detailing in West Covina, California. And today we're going to talk about how I keep track of my appointments.
Hey, Jerry, yes, 2023, yeah. It's been a good year for you?
Yeah, so far so good, man.
Has it been the busiest or normal?
Honestly, these past couple of years, I've stayed consistent. But I would say within these past 2 years for sure, I have to turn downward because I'm pretty busy. I need to maybe hire somebody at that point. I just don't know how to go about it. I don't know how much I want to pay them. I need somebody that I trust. You got to look over people's work, you know?
It's a big headache, man, having employees.
It is, it is.
We're going to talk about how you keep track of your appointments. So somebody calls you, says, Jerry, I'm ready to book. What's the first step?
So I give them two options. They can either go to my website or my Instagram and click under the Book Now button. I use Appointments by Square. So by that, I have all of my services. They're able to pick the service that they want, book the time, the date, and then I have the option on whether I want to accept it or not. If that particular time that they pick doesn't work for me, I'll give them a call because they have to fill out all their information. I give them a call, say hey, it's Jerry from Aesthetic Auto Detailing. I received your appointment request. I can't do this time, I can do this time. Does that work for you? Almost every single time they're like, oh, I can do this day, this time. Perfect, we'll do it. If they don't go through my Instagram or my website, they can also book with me personally. I write it down in a book. I have a schedule book, yeah. So either way, whether they go through my app or through me, it always goes through my book.
Oh, even on the app?
Yeah.
You take those appointments on the book?
Yeah, so I look at it, I look at what I have, and then I write it down for my notes. That way after, I always write down how much they paid, what service they got, the name, the time. That way it's always on my records. So ultimately, everything just kind of goes into the book.
What if you lose the book?
Then I'm out of luck.
Has that ever happened? Where you're I can't find it, I don't know what appointments I have tomorrow?
No, I've been good at that. One thing that did happen though, and luckily I had to update my book because the year was ending in that particular calendar book. One time I left my book right here because I was packing up this and that, and I put it right here and I just drove off, and it stayed all the way up until the corner of my house. And I remember I was driving back at the end of the day and I saw a book and just papers flying, and I was just oh, that sucks for that person. Then I started looking for my book and I found out it was mine. Now,
has there ever been a situation where you kind of double booked yourself without noticing?
Oh yeah, I've done that quite a few times. Sometimes people call me and let's just say I'm in my personal truck, which is why all my family members and friends know that I carry my schedule book with me every single time. And it's because I get calls 24/7, which is why my prices are my prices, why my schedule's not always available, because I'm working all the time. So it doesn't matter the time of day. I have clients that text me, call me 2, 3 in the morning, and I always have to have my book on me. So sometimes when they call me, I'll try to think really hard, oh, am I available this day? There's been a few times where it just slipped my mind and I just said yes, and then I'm writing them down and I already have somebody there. So sometimes I call them and hey, I'm sorry, I already have somebody. Majority of the time they're cool about it. There are a few people where they seem they're just mad because I inconvenienced them. And I understand, it was my fault. So sometimes I'll hook them up with a free little upgrade. If they're getting a full-on interior detail, I'll hook them up with a wash. Or if they're just getting an exterior wash, I'll hook them up with a little spray wax, I like to take care of my people.
Now, why do you choose Square appointments? I don't know if you heard of other detailing apps like Zippity. I think there's one called Booksy. Yeah. Why haven't you tried anything else?
Honestly, I already have a Square reader. Just about everything every service that I use when it comes to scheduling and everything, it's all Square. So I use a Square Appointments, I use a Square reader, so the app Square, and my website is actually through the Square domain as well. So it's convenient because I just found out not too long ago that it's all connected. Once you kind of look through everything, you kind of get the same notifications because it's all through Square. So that helps. And the Square Appointments, it's completely free. Unless you want all the extras, but not many platforms offer free services like that.
One thing that happened today was somebody asked for an invoice.
So for invoices, I have an actual app, and I think it's just called Invoice. It's called something. I could be using, Square, other apps, but this one in particular, I have to pay I think $65, $70 a year. and I've had it for about 3 or 4 years already, and it's been great. On my end, it looks a little different just because it's on an app, but once I send the invoice, I'm able to look at it, and it actually looks like a legitimate, like my contact information, the service I provided, the price. Like if I were to print it out, it would look like a legitimate invoice. So I like that because I've actually gotten compliments from like big companies like, oh, you provide invoices. Okay, well, that's different. We've had a couple of detailers that don't even do that. So I felt like that kind of set me apart from others.
We were talking earlier, you actually got your fleet account.
Yes, sir.
With the school,
Yeah.
because the previous detailer wanted only cash.
Yeah.
Dang. Just to show people that, you know, taking that little extra step to look professional helps out.
Yeah. I almost didn't do that. I had this union company with construction equipment. They had told me like, all right, once you start working, you have to start providing invoices. So I kind of was already like, oh, what do I do? And my dad just happened to come across it. He's like, hey, why don't you try this out? And I had a free trial and I really liked it. And then eventually they're like, hey, you got to pay like $65, whatever. And I've just stuck with them since. So it helps out because yeah, that detailer, he was doing cash for a little bit. And then they eventually told him like, hey, you need to start providing invoices, you know, doing this. And the guy was like, no, I don't want to. So they had to let him go.
He didn't want to because then you need to start reporting your income, you know, at the end of the year. So transitioning, does that help with taxes?
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like if you want to grow as like a legitimate business, eventually you got to become legitimate. You know, you got to get your business license and all that stuff because you could only work under the table for so long. You know, once you want to start making big purchases like a car or a house, you're not going to have any paper trails. So you just got to make sure, it depends on what you want to do, what your goals are. All right, guys, so that's what I use to set up my appointments. Let me know what you guys use in the comments below. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and stay blessed.